Now, teachers and school management staff are expected to start returning to school on Monday. The Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga announced last week that both the public and private schools will reopen for grades 7 and 12 on the 1st of June. Parents have taken to social media to voice their concerns about children being placed at increased risk of contracting the coronavirus at schools. Most teacher unions have also advised their members not to report for duty on Monday as they feel schools are not ready to reopen. So what is the view of the school governing bodies on this issue? They are, of course, the statutory bodies comprising of parents, educators and non-teaching staff who effectively run the schools. Well, for more on this, I'm joined by the National Association of School Governing Bodies General Secretary Matakanye Matakanye. Mr. Matakanye, very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Good evening, Simpiwe, and good evening all your listeners.
Well, the government's push, Mr. Matakanye, to reopen the schools in June seems to have divided stakeholders in the education sector right down the middle. What's the National Association of School Governing Bodies' view on this issue?
Thank you once again, Simpiwe. Our view is that safety first for our children and our teachers. Now, when we talk safety, the Department of Education know better than us in the sense that now coronavirus has placed some criteria, like for instance, the water, we have to wash our hands regularly for 20 seconds, social distancing. Then the children must be 1.5 meters away from one another. There is no more hugging. There is a new way of greeting. And then the PPEs, then children must have masks, teachers must have masks. They must have all the related matters in terms of the safety first in schools, and then in terms of the occupation health and security. So all those things really we discuss with the minister to say, before the children are taken back to school and the teachers, please ensure that all those are addressed. Then there will be no problem for us to go back to school if all those are addressed. Apparently, schools have not yet received the PPEs, and as you are saying, teachers will not be reporting to school on Monday. That date has been withdrawn because the PPEs are not yet in schools. So we don't know when will those PPEs come into the schools, and teachers been screened and then provided with those things and prepare for the return of children on the 1st. And we should not forget that next Monday, this coming Monday, I think it's the 25th, and the next Monday is the 1st. So we don't know at what stage will be the PPEs delivered in school, so that we know that systems go when the children come back to schools, and we want a report before before that other week. Then get a report to say no, all the systems are in place. Then teachers are back, and in this school, then the 60 teachers are this number. Teachers with comorbidities are this number, then we have replaced them like this, and then the question of social distancing, then we are going to add classes and all those. So these things must be in a plan, so that when we start talking to, and we do not want to see our parents divided, and because we don't want to see schools also divided, in the sense that now you will find that now schools that are having more resources than any other schools, then they will pushing to say we are going to school because those things we can do them on our own. And it means that now the poorer schools are in trouble. Then we'll be dividing our children. So between our children, then there will be those who can and those who cannot. And that will create the division that you have just talked about. It will create division among the parents. It will divide division among our children, a society as a whole, to show that now, if you are poor in this country...
We have exactly a week to go before the 1st of June, and I think you're still not clear as to whether should parents send their children to schools come the 1st of June, and should the parents trust you, the school governing bodies, should the parent trust the schools that their kids will not be exposed to any kind of risk?
No, I'm saying we have tabled the non-negotiables to the minister to say, Minister, before we take back our children in schools, address all this. And I said, they are not being addressed, And if really they are addressed, then I think parents will be ready to take back their children into schools. But if they are not addressed, then we must just forget that parents will not, because we have to reassure the parents to say, really and truly, we know that there will be accidents in schools, but these things are in schools, So then we'll be assuring the parents. But for now, I must tell you, we can't reassure the parents, because as I indicated that now, the non-negotiables have been not addressed.
Okay, you speak of the issue of the PPEs that still need to be delivered to the schools so that you can take an informed decision as to whether parents should be sending their kids to school. But what about other aspects? For instance, the scholar transport, or rather the scholar transport, the transport associations transporting children to school. Have you been in engagement with those? Because they are also some of the stakeholders.
No, it is not for us to be engaged. It's for the department to bring down the regulation. How do we regulate? So that when we go to the parents, we know what do we tell the parents to say, what is it that they must look up for when they put their children into a private transport or a scholar transport. These are things that you must ensure that they are there. We want that it must be common, and the DBE is the only government department that can regulate that, so that it is common in the country. We are not doing as we want to do. The other province is doing what it wants to do. It must be common. Then the Department of Education must bring a guide so that we can, but we don't have that guide yet to say what are things that we have to look at when we take our children into a private or into a scholar transport. So those are things that really we have to, and it's a week, as you are saying, it's a week left, as I indicated that now the next Monday is the 1st.
The issue of safety and security in the context of dealing with COVID-19 is quite broad, Mr. Matakanye, because it doesn't only involve the PPEs. There's also issues of water. There's also issues of sanitation in schools. There's issues of, overcrowding in schools. So these have been issues that have been quite endemic in the country's education system. It's issues that have been seen for years. So how then do you expect the minister or the department to solve these issues within a short space?
That is $1 million question. It's $1 million question because we are saying the non-negotiables, because it is true that now we must have running water. Then the minister must bring back the plan to say now in the schools that did not have water, I did this. Like, for instance, she would have discussed with the Minister of Water and Sanitation to say she has brought this number of jojos in the school. So we want that plan before we can talk to the parents. I mean, you talk in terms of the question of social distancing. We know that our schools, it is true that they are overcrowded. And then, it's schools that probably you find that one teacher is equal to 70 children. So it's already 3 classes. Now, we want a plan to say, we are going to divide this class into 3. Then we are going to place your children here. And here are the teachers. We have outsourced or we have recruited this number of teachers are going to do. In terms of this particular class, there are number of teachers who have underlying conditions. So we have replaced them, and we want this plan so that when we go to the parents, we give parents a tangible plan. We don't doubt, we just give them a tangible. Yes, of course, when the parents ask questions, we say, yes, this is what they have done. But it is true that in this country, you know that we have got schools that are in the rural, deep rural. There are schools that are poor, of the poorest, and the working class. And these are the schools that have been suffering for all this time. And we want to say, I mean, how do we treat those schools if you don't bring, because coronavirus.
Mr. Matakanye, unfortunately, we don't have much time. But then, just before I let you go, the school governing bodies and the Department of Basic Education seem to be pulling in different directions. Now, the minister has announced that schools are opening on the 1st of June, and the school governing bodies say no, until they have a proper plan with regards to PPEs in schools. Schools are definitely not opening. So where does this leave the parents? Are you constantly in engagement with the minister, or you've simply given an ultimatum to the minister?
We are in constant engagement with the minister, and we have sent also a survey to the parents so that when we talk to the minister the next time, we are talking with authority to say parents are saying this.
Okay. Mr. Matakanye, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Have the best.
The National Association of School Governing Bodies General Secretary Matakanye Matakanye.